right, here we are. Temple of Zucca, the best stuff on the internet. We are reading the Recursive Radicalism of Nick Fuentes, Socratic Groyper Axioms, Part 5. We're going to keep going through this whole book. I might just finish this whole thing. These are writings written and read by me, Abe Zucca. You can check out my art at zuccagallery.com. You can come into my gallery at 1301 Grand. Yeah, my subscribers is very low, but just Google the name Abe Zucca, see what's up. See if I'm that true idiot who's trying to start a YouTube channel this late in the game. Let's go on. Let's start reading the Spectral Eros and the Anatomy of the Digital Metamorphosis, Pornographic Alchemy, Erotic Drift, Gender Sorcery, and the Collapse of the Courtship World. Someone was saying these are just disjointed sentences, but he can't read more than one sentence at a time, I guess. They all go together. These are categories, these are axioms, these are statements. It's not a novel with characters. It's not some story. These are statements. You think about them. They're like aphorisms. You guys can go ask ChatGPT all this stuff, and try to be easy with the stupid questions. Eros under glass mutates faster than the bodies that behold it. Where the gaze is severed from touch, identity begins to migrate. The machine does not seduce, it reprograms. The pornographic abyss and the Eros of acceleration. In the age of infinite images, Eros no longer unfolds as a slow ignition between bodies, but as a torrent of stimuli, cascading faster than the nervous system can process, creating a generation for whom sexual desire is shaped by velocity rather than reciprocity. Pornography, once a peripheral indulgence, has become a central operating system of adolescent sexuality, entering the psyche precisely during the most plastic stages, imprinting reward circuits with a mechanical grammar incompatible with embodied intimacy. To consume pornography multiple times a day is not merely indulgence, it is the neurological ritual that conditions arousal to novelty, extremity, and voyeurism, until the user requires ever more forbidden intensities to feel the faintest pulse of desire. Thus, the consumer becomes a pilgrim of escalation, chasing the memory of the first shock, the primal jolt, as if reenacting a lost initiation, yet every new threshold cross dissolves the previous one, leaving only the hunger for transgression itself. Where there is no human reciprocity, Eros mutates. Desire trained on the inhuman becomes inhuman, and the psyche deprived of relational calibration begins to sculpt itself around images rather than persons. The mimetic sorcery of autogyne, the self-seduction loop. Yeah, seriously. Subscribe, share. See if the world can become a little bit more complicated. The spectator of pornography undergoes a silent psychological inversion. By repeatedly occupying the godlike vantage of the voyeur, he begins to identify not only with the male actor, but also insidiously with the female body receiving desire. The erotic cross-identification glimpsed in autogynephilic fantasies. One observes the first sign of the self-seduction loop, where the ego, saturated by disembodied arousal, begins to dream of becoming both lover and beloved. The libido, deprived of the embodied grounding, turns inward, constructing a feminine simulacrum within the self. A phantom body made of pixels, projections, and longing for the impossible omnipresence of the pornographic gaze. Such psychic doubling does not originate in ideology, but in the overstimulation. Identity becomes fluid not because culture demands it, but because Eros has been rewired by endless novelty, pushing the psyche toward ever stranger configurations. Gender confusion in the schema is not rebellion but consequence. The internalization of voyeuristic apparatus, the desire to be simultaneously the subject and object of arousal, the erotic Mobius strip formed by algorithmic repetition. The spectral eros industry and the rise of the digital. The pornographic economy has shattered the ancient boundary between private desire and public display with OnlyFans, the erotic marketplace extends into every bedroom, turning countless ordinary women into spectral, digital courtesans of the algorithm. Where pornography once required studios, contracts, and stigma, now the threshold is an app, an upload button. Sexual exhibitionism has been democratized, commodified, and most dangerously normalized. The new erotic ecosystem transforms young women into entrepreneurs of self-objectification, monetizing intimacy as subscription content and dissolving the sanctity of the erotic into infinitely distributable fragments. Do I need someone to read it? Do I need someone to read it for me? How do you read? The psychic cost is profound. The body becomes inventory. Desire becomes branding, and femininity becomes a revenue stream shaped by anonymous male demand rather than a human relationship. A lot of these people, they comment, but they can't comment on anything I'm saying because they're fucking idiots. It's tough, man. This is a tough gig with all these morons. I'm going to assault them because then they tend to watch longer and it creates a better algorithm. For young men, such abundance becomes famine. When every fantasy is purchasable, no reality can satisfy. Romance erodes beneath the shadow of the spectral, and courtship collapses under the weight of digital counterfeit. The decline of courtship and the collapse of the marriage architecture. Marriage falters not because love has disappeared, but because courtship rituals have been replaced by simulacra, leaving men and women unable to recognize one another except through ideological caricatures and erotic stereotypes. The more overstimulated the male libido becomes, the less patience it has for relational complexity. The more the female psyche is shaped by curated attention economies, the less it is prepared for the mutual limitations of real partnership. The courtship world is disintegrating because its sacred prerequisites, modesty, exclusivity, admiration, patience, mystery, have been annihilated by platforms designed to monetize their destruction. Thus, the modern pair bond is not merely difficult, but structurally sabotaged. One enters the relationship carrying an archive of digital ghosts, erotic expectations, and political scripts that drown the possibility of fresh mutual encounter. Marriage, once a covenant, stabilized the self. Now ask individuals already fractured by pornographic conditioning, ideological polarization, and algorithmic overstimulation to perform relational miracles without the psychic equipment to do so. Feminine chaos in the algorithmic gynosphere. The feminine psyche is the digital age, is shaped not by nature but by the gynosphere, an algorithmic curated web of aesthetics, political scripts, attention economies, and subliminal competition rituals. The gynosphere falters, inflates, destabilizes, and politicizes. It tells the ordinary woman they deserve kings while offering them a kingdom of spectators. It promises empowerment while teaching dependence on the gaze of strangers. Liberalism in its digital form becomes less an ideology than a mood, an atmospheric condition of moral self-congratulations, emotional volatility, and performative independence, making deep dependence on public validation. Within the environment, genuine partnership becomes nearly impossible. The feminine self continually receives instruction from the hive, while the masculine self is told to apologize merely for existing. The inflationary bubble of self-worth detached from character, loyalty, or relational capacity, a phenomenon engineered by platforms that monetize desire, envy, and delusion. The broken patriarchy of the eunuch, the eunuchization of men. Men in the digital epoch face a paradox. They are held responsible for society yet denied the authority to guide the household, community, or norms. Such responsibility without power produces cowardice, resentment, and erotic dysfunction. The state encourages men to be providers, but not leaders, partners, but not patriarchs, emotionally available, but morally silent, sexually charged, but romantically disposable. The result is a generation of unicized men, trained to worship women as goddesses, but forbidden to guide them, defend them, contradict them, or provide them the structure their relationship requires. Into the vacuum steps the figure of the digital strongman, charismatic, hypermasculine, vulgar, chaotic, appealing not because he is virtuous, but because he speaks the forbidden truth that authority must accompany responsibility. The Christian man ironically finds himself outmaneuvered, tone policed into impotence, sentimentalized into softness, and spiritually castrated by a religion he misunderstands as passivity rather than sacrificial kingship. The war of genders in the era of systematic incentives. The conflict between men and women is not natural, but engineered. Legal incentives reward female abandonment of relationships, while cultural incentives reward sexual exhibition and emotional volatility. Technology amplifies these incentives, turning every woman into a potential celebrity and every man into a potential voyeur, dissolving the monogamous imaginary at its root. The reason men fail to lead is not lack of will, but the structural hostility of a system that punishes masculine direction while rewarding feminine defection. Women, as the great conformists of civilization, eventually adopt the norms of whatever society they inhabit. And in a civilization of decadence, they conform to decadence. Thus, the gender war is less a conflict of sexes and a conflict between nature and infrastructure, with nature losing every round. On the necessity of the final decision maker, the archon of the house. Every household contains an archon, the one who bears the responsibility when disaster strikes, and without this rule, the family is a ship without a keel, tossed by emotional weather patterns. Love does not negate hierarchy, it presupposes it, for affection without structure decays into chaos, resentment, and silent power struggles. To make the husband responsible party without granting him authority is to demand leadership without tools, courage without weapons, and accountability without sovereignty. Women instinctively lose respect for a man who cannot say no, because the psyche recognizes that a man without boundaries cannot provide safety, direction, or admiration. Thus, to restore the courtship world is not merely a moral project, but a metaphysical one. The rebalancing of the masculine and feminine principles is a cosmos disordered by digital sorcery. The veiled feminine, the fractured household, and the coming civic tempest. Hidden speech, domestic sovereignty, erotic misalignment, the apocalyptic governance. The feminine speaks in refracted beams. The meaning stands behind the utterance like the moon behind clouds. Every house is a contested border. Every marriage is a small republic with its own constitution. Civilizations fall not when men grow wicked, but when they cease to understand their women and begin to misunderstand their enemies. The veiled speech of feminine mystery. The feminine expresses itself obliquely, not through deception, but through spiral logic in which present grievances are knotted with past wounds, and the spoken surface is merely the shimmer of deeper emotional currents the woman herself may not yet fully perceive. Men bound to linear time and direct causality find the structure maddening, for they navigate the world by explicit markers, yet the feminine psyche lives by resonance, where the emotional impact of last year's storm may break upon today's breakfast table without warning. The opacity is not a flaw, but a cosmic feature in the dance of Eros. Miscommunication becomes the friction from which intimacy emerges, as two incompatible languages throw sparks until a shared fire is found. To demand full transparency from the feminine is to misunderstand her nature, for her truth unfolds like a lunar cycle, never fully seen at once, but revealed through phases, shadows, and tides. Thus, the beauty of long union arises precisely from these frictions, for the incomprehensible softens into understanding over years, teaching the masculine mind humility, patience, and the ability to listen beneath the spoken word. The household as arena of power, humility, and mutual civilization. Every marriage is an experiment in sovereignty, where two internal worlds negotiate borders, alliances, and protocols of peace, sometimes gracefully, often turbulently. The masculine impulse seeks linear authority, a realm free of contradiction, where tasks are clear and loyalty is assumed. The feminine impulse introduces complexity, ambiguity, and textured emotional accountability. A wife who merely worships her husband destroys him as surely as one who despises him, for flattery is a poison that intoxicates the masculine ego until it forgets its limit and imagines itself divine. True partnership demands a balancing counterforce, the beloved who admires the man but refuses to defy him, who supports his conquest yet punctures his hubris, who loves him enough to contradict him when necessary. Men untempered by such domestic resistance succumb to the classic downfall of kings, believing themselves infallible, invincible, immune to decay. The household exists partly to remind him that he is mortal. The veiled feminine, the fractured household, and the coming civic tempest. The dialectic of denunciation and the two tribes of post-empire descent. Audience convergence, ritual outrage, exilic speech, and the mythic geometry of Israel critical spectrum. Every exile finds the other exile by the echo of the same forbidden sentence. All criticism creates a tribe, all denunciation creates a myth. Media is the new Sinai. Those who ascended return glowing, cursed or both. Digital counter-publics do not grow linearly, but braidedly. Two distinct figures rise separate from each other, only to discover years later that their audience have already fused in subterranean corridors of algorithmic adjacency, forming a shared imaginal tribe long before the leaders meet. In the era of fractured empire, audiences behave like migrating constellations. They drift from the creator to creator, mapping coherence across ideological distances, recognizing kinship before the hosts themselves acknowledge it. The overlap of two rising dissident voices signal not mere coincidence, but the emergence of a generational schema, in which rhetorical style, political suspicion, and oppositional temperament align to create a shared mythic lineage. Reputation is no longer crafted by one's speech alone, but by the enemies who demand their denunciation. Every attack becomes the alchemical regent that binds disparate audiences more tightly. When two figures find themselves repeatedly invoked in the other's absence, what do you think of him? Do you denounce him? A ritual has formed, and ritual always precedes alliance. Audience converge in a kind of syncretic liturgy. Each group brings its own myths, grievances, saints, demons, and through repeated cross-reference they learn to pronounce each other's sacred names. The conversation that must happen is always foretold by the murmuring of the audience. Listeners sense the archetypal symmetry before the speakers do, urging them towards the inevitable dialogue. In digital politics, the gravitational pull between parallel dissenters is stronger than ideological divergence. The public perceives the shape of constellations long before the stars admit their alignment. Every long-delayed meeting between dissonant figures fulfills a psychic demand. The tribe requires its two halves to speak so reality can triangulate itself. Thus, a discussion between two controversial figures is never simply a convergence. It is a right of mutual recognition, a sealing of overlapping mythologies, and a confirmation of a hidden audience that birthed them both. Denunciation, outrage, and the ritual economy of taboo. Denunciation is the currency of the modern priesthood. Each demand for moral disavowal is an attempt to force a participant to genuflect before the reigning orthodoxy. When one refuses the ritual of denunciation, when one answers, "fuck you," instead of bowing, a fracture opens in the cathedral and a counter-cathedral begins to form. To be asked to denounce is to be invited into a purification drama that was never yours to begin with. To refuse is to reject the metaphysics of guilt by contagion that undergirds late liberal social control. A figure rise, denunciation requests multiply, because institutions panic when their myths no longer hold gravitational force. Their only remaining weapon is social excommunication. But every refusal to excommunicate another expands the dissident coalition. Those who do not bow to taboo become living proof that the taboo can be survived. A denounced figure gains mythic density, for society casts exiles as either devils or prophets, and a clever exile tends to embody both. The outrage directed at a guest becomes a binding agent for the host. In defending the conversation, the host undergoes his own initiation into outlaw. Denunciation cycles are not conversations but rituals of fear, rehearsed by the terrified that an unregulated dialogue might reveal truths deemed impermissible. Those who participate in denunciation rituals become priests of fragility. Those who refuse become heretics of courage. Every era creates its own blasphemies, but it is the blasphemer, not the blasphemy, who reveals the theological architecture of the age. The two Israel critical lineages, libertarian and identitarian. The Israel critic movement is not monolithic but bifurcated into two genealogies, one libertarian, born from anti-war principles and suspicion of foreign entanglements, the other identitarian, born from nationalist self-preservation and generational revolt. The libertarian critique begins with Ron Paul's revolution, where civil liberties, non-interventionism, and anti-neocon sentiment form a coherent philosophical edifice against global militarism. The identitarian critique begins in the Trump revolution, where young nationalists embrace sovereignty, demographic anxiety, and cultural reorientation as existential questions rather than policy debates. Where libertarians oppose empire on procedural grounds, identitarians oppose it on civilizational grounds. One rejects foreign wars, the other rejects foreign influence. All right, I'm just going to end there. I'll see you guys later. Check out zuccagallery.com. I am Abe Zucca. This was the end of part 5 of the recursive radicalism of Nick Fuentes, Socratic Groyper axioms. I will see you guys later.